In the previous lecture, we were talking about how to draw energy bands when we go from one set of k points to another set of k points, that is from a high symmetry k point as we transverse across to a low symmetry k point and so forth. So, I will discuss that a little bit more in detail. So, what happens is that I will take the example of a two-dimensional square lattice and illustrate how one does that. The two-dimensional square lattice is given by this. You have the central point which is gamma and the corner point which is m, which is the same thing as gamma, and then I have an x point here and I have a delta point somewhere along the line, and then I have a sigma point somewhere there and a z point. So, these are the points, and usually when we are drawing energy bands, we start with the following. We start with energy levels at the gamma point and say we move towards the x point. The moment we leave the gamma point has very high symmetry point, the wave vector group has very high symmetry. Has high symmetry, almost it has the full symmetry of the square, and then but delta point has lower symmetry. So, what happens? Any degeneracy at the gamma point could be lifted. And we should know how to, we should be able to draw a correlation diagram, should be able to draw a correlation diagram for energy levels at the gamma point and the delta point. And the delta point. So, how does one go about? What one does is very similar to what is done in crystal field theory. In crystal field theory, we know, for example, that we have an octahedral group, very similar to crystal field theory. Say when we have an octahedron is distorted, if distorted to a D4H symmetry. So, what you do in this case is push or pull along one of the axes, say for example the z axis. Then we have the OH symmetry goes to the D4H symmetry, and in the OH symmetry, supposing I am looking at the d orbitals under OH symmetry are split into T2g and Eg. That is the following. You have the 5 d orbitals. There is an atomic case where all the 5 d orbitals are degenerate. I go to the octahedral point group, then I have the splitting into the T2g and the Eg orbitals. So, if I go from here to D4H, which is basically done by the following, that is what we have is the octahedron, and we pull along the z axis. Let us say that I pull along this, so that I have a square planar, and then the ligand atoms are along the z axis are far away. In this case, all the ligand atoms are equidistant, and in this case the ligand atoms move away. So, in this case what happens is the Eg orbital split and the T2g orbitals also split. Okay, so it will split into T2g will split into a doubly degenerate one and then non degenerate. For example, this will be dyz, the lowest, and this will be, sorry, the splitting will be slightly different. So, the one at the lower end will be dxy, because this is the z axis. So, along the z axis I have moved the orbitals away. So, what I had written was correct. So, what actually happens is the following, that is the dxy goes up in energy, because the xy the distances are exactly the same for all the 4 ligands. So, for example, you have the dxy orbital is along this ligand and these 4 ligands, for example. So, actually the way I have drawn it is slightly different. So, because this will be the x axis, this will be the y axis. So, the d4 dxy ligand will be somewhere like that, and this is going to be higher in energy because the ligand atoms are very close to the orbital lobes. But on the other hand, if you look at the dyz and dzx, they are going to be higher in energy, or rather dyz and dxz will be lower in energy. They will be somewhere here, because only along one axis, either x or y, is the ligand close, okay, dyz or dxz. Okay. In this, only along the x axis the ligand is close, along the z axis the ligand is far away. So, the energy is going to be lower for dyz dxz compared to dxy, and this will be such that dx squared minus y squared will go up and dz squared will be here. So, this is the way the energy splits. So, similarly there should be a splitting of the energy levels. So, in this case what we do is, to understand the splitting we use group theory. In the group theory what we do is, we take the gamma T2g irreducible representation and treat as reducible representation for the D4H group. When you do this, then gamma T2g irreducible for D4 octahedral will split into gamma irreducible A1, I think it is A1G, I am not sure. So, of D4H and gamma irreducible E1G probably. I will have to be careful, I do not know. I will probably confirm this with you in the next class. This will be D4H. So, what you have done is treated the irreducible representation as a reducible representation for the subgroup. Similarly, we could do this for the EG representation. So, gamma this is for the octahedral group. So, similarly gamma irreducible for the EG octahedral can be treated as reducible under D4H. So, that is how you split it. A very similar thing can be done in this case, because what has happened is the symmetry of the wave vector group has reduced in going from gamma point to delta point, going from gamma point to delta point. So, you can have the irreducible representation of gamma and treat it as reducible representation of the delta point, as reducible representation of the wave vector group at the delta point. So, similarly you have other points. So, for a square we have the following: gamma and m points are identical. The m point is identical to gamma point because the m point, the vector going from gamma to m can easily be flipped back into the gamma point because that is on the zone corner. Okay. This we discussed in the previous lecture, and similarly the points x, m are identical, rather x and x is unique. Okay, x is unique, and then we also have the delta, sigma and z points. The irreducible representations at these points are the following. So, let me write down the irreducible representations for these points just to give you an idea. So, you have the gamma or m point, and you have the symmetry E, and then you have the symmetry two-fold axis around the z, and then you have a four-fold axis around the z and 4 3 z. So, the two are in the same class, and then I have a mirror plane mx comma my and a diagonal mirror plane which is md comma md prime. So, these are the symmetry elements, and the representations you will have are gamma 1, gamma 2 all the way up to gamma 5. So, you can call it m1 or gamma 1, m2 or gamma 2 and m5, let me also write down m3 comma gamma 3, m4 comma gamma 4, etc. So, the first one is of course the totally symmetric representation 1 1 1 1 1, and the next one will be 1 1 1 minus 1 minus 1, and then I have a 1 1 minus 1 1 minus 1, and then 1 1 minus 1 minus 1 1, and 2 minus 2 0 0 0. So, this is doubly degenerate because under the character under the identity operator is 2. So, it is doubly degenerate, and all the other states are singly degenerate. These are all non-degenerate. Now, what are the symmetries at the x point? X point, the symmetries are the following. E, and then you have the two-fold axis around z, and then you have the mx and the my planes. You do not have the diagonal planes, and you have altogether 4 irreducible representations which I can call x1, x2, x3, x4, and these will be 1 1 1 1 the first one, and then I will have 1 1 minus 1 minus 1, and then I will have a 1 minus 1 1 minus 1, and the fourth representation is 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. These can actually be written out by inspection by knowing elementary group theory. And of course, when you are looking at the points like delta, sigma and z points, so these points only have two symmetry elements, which are identity and the one mirror. On mirror plane, it can be either a mirror plane which is perpendicular to the x axis or perpendicular to the y axis or the diagonal mirror plane, and they will have two irreducible representations, delta 1 sigma 1 z 1, which are 1 and 1, and delta 2 sigma 2 z 2, which is 1 and minus 1. Now, if you treat the irreducible representations of gamma as the reducible representations for the group x and delta E and z, then what you get is the following. That is, you can write down the compatibility, and the compatibility, it is easier to write down the compatibility in the reverse fashion. For example, delta 1 and delta 2 are compatible. Let me give them separately. Delta 1 is compatible with gamma 1, gamma 3, gamma 5, x1 and x4, whereas delta 2 is compatible with gamma 2, gamma 4, gamma 5, x2 and x3, similarly, we will have sigma 1 and sigma 2 compatibilities. You can write down sigma 1 and sigma 2 will be compatible with gamma 1, gamma 4, gamma 5, and M1, M4, M5. Sigma 2 will be compatible with gamma 2, gamma 3, and then gamma 5, and then with M2, M3 and M5. And Z1 and Z2 will be compatible with X1, X3, and you have M3, M5, M1, M3, M5, X2, X4, comma M2, M4, M5. So, what we are seeing is of course, gammas and m's are identical. So, that is the reason why sometimes m is not written, because m and gamma are identical points, and this will allow us to draw energy band diagram. For example, if I am going from say energy versus k, and I start with the gamma point here, and then I go to the delta point, then you would see that the two-dimensional representation like gamma 5, which is doubly degenerate. So, if the state at this point has a symmetry gamma 5, then it breaks into two one-dimensional representations, which are delta 1 and a delta 2. So, you see how the energies are going to be splitting. You can write down, and similarly you can show from going from delta point to the x point what happens, and so on and so forth. Okay. So, this is the way one can do it, and the nomenclature for the symmetry points in the Brillouin zones was first given by three physicists. Their names are the following: Bouckaert, Smoluchowski, and Wigner, and are known as BSW nomenclature. This is usually universally used when people are describing energy band structures of various crystal systems that they would calculate for. Okay, so I have shown so far how you can actually, what is the region in K space that you have to work with in the Brillouin zone, what is the region of the Brillouin zone you have to work with, and then I have also shown how the energy levels can be drawn along a particular symmetric contour in the Brillouin zone by showing the correlation diagrams, and the symbols for these points are given by BSW, and so you use the BSW. So most of the times when you see an energy band diagram in any of the papers, what you would see is a whole bunch of spaghetti lines, and you must be wondering how they have joined, how they know one particular line has to be joined to another particular line, and so on and so forth when there are multiple lines, and all this is completely dictated by group theory. Of course, it is not enough to have the energy band, it is not enough to know the band diagram along some symmetry axis. What you really need to know is over the entire portion of the Brillouin zone on which you have to work. For example, if it is a simple cubic Brillouin zone, you have to know the energy levels in that 1/48 of the Brillouin zone at all points within 1/48. So if you have got n atoms in your crystal, you will have n states in that particular region of the Brillouin zone, n by 48 states, and you must be able to get all of them. The point is, it is just too much data and you do not know how to interpret them or how to represent them. So usually what people do is the following, that is, they construct to compact the data the density of states histograms are constructed. So what do? You first take the region of the Brillouin zone, for example if it is a square, let us say it is a square, and then you put the grid points depending upon your computational strength and the technique that you are using, then you will be able to calculate a given number of points within a reasonable time. So let us assume that you have calculated at some n points, then we can construct the following histograms. We can construct histograms of number of states delta n between n at energy E and n at energy E plus delta E. Of course, it is modulus. So this is delta n of E. So what you do is you have this histogram which is actually the number versus energy. So you construct these histograms with the different kinds of delta E's and so on and so forth. So construct histograms for smaller and smaller delta E until the envelope of the histogram does not change. this density of states calculations plots can be made for different bands. From this we can find out if the system is metallic by knowing if the highest occupied band is partly filled. So, this is pretty easy to do. So, usually you can also find out, just sometimes it is sufficient to look at the E versus K plots along to arrive at this conclusion. From the E versus K plots along symmetry directions. So, you will know whether a band is overlapping or not along a symmetry direction just by looking at the E versus K plots along symmetry directions. But if the bands are not overlapping along the symmetry directions, it does not necessarily mean that the system is not metallic, because there may be general K points at which the bands could be overlapping, which means the higher band may be descending below the lower band and so on and so forth. So, it is necessary to calculate the density of states in order to know what the energy, to know whether a material is metallic or not and whether the bands are overlapping. One can also do one more thing, that is, one can construct the constant energy surface one can construct the constant energy surface corresponding to the highest energy eigenvalue which is occupied, to the state which is occupied with highest energy eigenvalue. This is nothing but the Fermi surface. This is what we would call the Fermi surface. At a later time I will come back and discuss how you can actually experimentally measure the Fermi surface. You can determine the Fermi surface using energy band calculations, and how you experimentally measure the Fermi surface is interesting, and we will discuss it briefly when we come to that particular topic. But right now what I have done is, so far I have given you a good idea about what the energy versus K plots that you see in literature are and how they are arrived at, and why you only work in a particular region of the Brillouin zone, and also how you go from higher symmetry wave vector point to a lower symmetry wave vector point, and how you correlate the states in these two regions by doing what is called the compatibility of states. So, which could be arrived at almost along the lines of the Jahn-Teller distortions that people are familiar with in inorganic complexes. I think I will stop here at this, for this talk, and when I come back I will discuss how we actually calculate the energy bands. So, I will first discuss tight binding method, and then the plane wave method, and after that we go into more sophisticated methods and show you how energy bands are calculated within those sophisticated approaches. So thank you for your attention.